All right. We have been working on meeting up and talking for a while. I'm super happy to have you, Nathan, as a somebody that I trust. I've worked with you for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to what you had to talk about and what you had to bring to the subject of burnout. So, talk to me. Like, what's on your mind about burnout?
Yeah, fantastic topic. I have experienced burnout on numerous occasions. So I've been in leadership and management, over 60 people for about the last 3 years. The first year was quite the introduction to burnout, but we ended up getting through it after some cultural changes in the organization. And then after about the last 2.5 years, really kind of get into that 3 year point where everything is kind of lather, rinse, repeat. And it just kind of becomes one of those things where it's like, where do I go from here? Everything's starting to look the same, but then things don't look the same. And you get hit with one problem and then another problem. And then, it's funny, we talk about misalignment, but
Right.
the word I would actually use maybe in place is disharmony,
Okay.
work life balance, work life harmony. Um, a lot of times when work was getting stressful, home life was good. When home life was rough and busy with family situations, medical appointments, and such, work was fine. What really becomes difficult for leaders is managing when all of it is stressful. And so I hit a point last week, in fact, where I was dealing with a workplace problem. I could not figure it out. And it was just this brain fog of looking at the same problem for about an hour, and I could not crack it to where I finally just had to shut my door, sit down in my chair, turn away from the computer, and just kind of just take a mental break and go, how do I fix this? How do I hit the reset button? um, as a leader, we've got to do that.
Right. I wonder what other advice, maybe not advice, but what other pathway, if you don't have a door to shut and just think through
Mhm.
it, what have you used in the past that helps you find your way through kind of like the mire of that burnout? If do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. We talk about disharmony.
Right.
I'm a hobby guy. Like I've
Okay.
got tons of hobbies. And so, when we look at holistic resilience, we look at, what's your social life? How's your family life? What's your mental resilience, your ability to bounce back? Are you spiritually in tuned? Are you physically, fit, taking care of the body? Steve Covey talks about this in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. The seventh habit, sharpen the saw, right? Like we have to make sure that the saw is sharp so we can take care of ourselves, take care of the people around us that we're leading. And so the way I sharpen the saw is getting to the gym, finding
Right.
that mental break. So picking up a good book. I one month about a year or two ago, I ended up reading like six. Um, I think it was like six business or corporate type books. I had to put them down and just pick up a fictional read
Right.
just to kind
Yeah.
of, just kind of hit that reset button. And I
Yeah.
was kind of coached out. But grabbing a fictional read, just kind of separating yourself from reality, the things going on. Um, I was spending long hours at work, and I had a coworker come up to me, semi-supervisory, and she said, "What are you doing here? Haven't seen you take lunch. You're working late hours." And I said, "I'm behind." And she said to me, "You're always going to be behind. The trick is managing how far behind you actually are." And
Okay.
so I started taking my workout breaks in the afternoon, and wouldn't you know it, I actually came back in the afternoon recharged, a better employee in the afternoons.
That's you. So what I hear you saying right there is like there has to be in order to avoid burnout or to even find your way out of burnout, there has to be a focus on self-care of some sort,
Mhm.
whether it's hobby, like you said, you go to the gym. Um, do you ever, and this actually it's a perfect kind of a throwback to one of our previous coaching insights about kind of feeling guilty about that self-care. Do you
Mhm.
ever feel that where you're like you want to go and do something that helps take care of you and get you out of that burnout mode, but then you kind of feel bad about it? Is that something you've ever experienced?
Luckily, no.
Okay.
And I think that comes down to really prioritization. So I've always said my number one priority in the workplace is safety, right? I don't want to get anyone injured or killed in the workplace. And so as long as that objective is being met, my number two, three, and four priorities is paid promotions and people. And really people comes down to just making sure that everyone's kind of taken care of. I'm hiring to the right positions. I'm holding the right people accountable to the goals that we need to. And as long as those four objectives are being met, everyone's getting paid. People are able to put, food on the dinner table, roof over their heads. The other stuff is every now and then it's okay to kind of let fail or let sit idle for a little bit longer. Again, it's just managing how far behind you actually are. But again, going back to sharpening the saw, there's another book out there. I can't remember the author, but it's put your own mask on first, right? It's what do they tell you to do on the airplane? Put your mask on first so you can take care of those around you. Um,
Right.
it's tough to do,
Yep.
but it's what you have to do as a leader, sharpening the saw, putting your mask on first so you can take care of those around you, knowing that everything else is taken care of around you.
Sure, I get that. So it doesn't sound like you have too much of an issue with that guilt for self-care, though you did mention like kind of letting things fail. Does that
Mhm.
sound like kind of a boundary to you that you would establish and say, hey, look, um, this I don't want to so overtax myself here. Here's my boundary. And on the other side of that boundary, this thing might fail, and I have to be willing to allow that to happen. Does that sound about right?
Basically,
Okay.
um, where failure happens, so does growth, right?
Okay.
And so that's one thing that we're big on in our organization. We're okay letting things fail because that's kind of where people can learn their best lessons. The trick there is surrounding yourself with good people who understand your goals. Again, safety, uh, pay, promotions, and people. Um, and then as long as everyone has those priorities in order, after that, it's fine. Saying, "Hey, take care of yourself, so we can take care of the mission and the objectives that we've been tasked with."
Right. So, okay, so if I'm working for you and I go up and I say, "Hey boss, I am taxed to the max. I
Mhm.
am, burnt out, and maybe even you as my boss have seen maybe some problems in my work performance. You see that I'm getting sluggish. Maybe I'm coming to work tired. I got big rings around my
Yeah.
eyes or something like that. And I'm coming to you and I'm expressing this concern about specific burnout. What would be the conversation you would have with them?
So, what would be the conversation of someone experiencing burnout in our culture? It's probably, "Hey, are you delegating? Tell me about the team around you. Are you empowering your people to take things on? How are you prioritizing? If you're taking care of the safety of those around you, pay, promotions, people." Um, there's another good story in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People where an individual has to tell his boss no. And so behind me at the office, I've got a whiteboard and it's got my top five priorities on it. And that is my polite way of being able to tell my boss no. If my boss comes in with a good idea fairy moment and says, hey Nathan, I think it'd be great to do this, right? I can look back at my board and say, boss, I am currently working on A, B, C, D, E. Where do you see that priority fitting into what I'm already working on? We're very upfront with being able to tell each other no and helping each other prioritize. The analogy we use in the workplace is we're all juggling our own plates in a circle. It's our job to watch the plates using our peripheral vision of those next to us. If I see Joe is getting ready to drop a plate, I've got my own plates in the air, but I see Joe's getting ready to drop it. So I've got to use that peripheral vision to pick it up. And I think that's where being cognizant of, Joe's burnout and being able to catch the plates sometime for him. Um, whenever they come to you. The other trick there too, and what I hear in that question is, um, the quickest way to build a good culture is vulnerability and building trust. And if you have a colleague or an employee who comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm getting to the point of burnout," you got to help, right? You've got to. And that doesn't necessarily mean like solving all of the problems for that person, but they have chosen to be vulnerable with you. So how are you going to use that as an opportunity to build trust with them? Whether that's reprioritizing, helping them empower the people around them, maybe helping them, remove a task or two. Oh, you're still working on that? Hey, that's been taken off the to-do list for a month. Sorry you didn't get the memo. We'll work on fixing that process.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that you can look at to help the people to your right and left.
Oh man, so you hit a couple points that I think are so vital. One of them is that to me, from like a leadership management perspective, where you're really coming from, if you have somebody that starts that conversation in that way, like, "Hey, boss, I've got all this going on. I'm burnt out. I need some help." You can actually look at that as a huge win right there. The question, the
Right.
fact that he just came in to ask that question
Mhm.
speaks to you as a leader that, oh yeah, so this person trusts me.
Right.
They believe in me. They think I can help. And then that, so you're like halfway there already. You've already got that
Amen.
trust. Now it's a matter of another thing that I really like that you said is uh, what what can I help you reprioritize with? Like if I'm in
Mhm.
charge and you're coming to me saying, "Hey, I'm getting burnt out," or I'm dealing with that right now. Me as a leader, why can't I look at what you've got on your plate and say, "Oh, okay, well, let's start knocking these things out of the way," right? Or at
Right.
least reprioritize them in such a way that they are
Mhm.
not as important. Let's, the suspense was tomorrow. Let's move that to a couple weeks from now so you can focus a little bit, right? Or hell, let's move it a
Exactly.
couple weeks so you can take a day of leave, right?
Yeah.
And be
Amen.
away from the office. So those are two
Mhm.
huge points that I think are really great. It's just remembering that it's already a big win that they came in to talk to you anyway. It just shows a huge amount of trust that they have in you. So yeah. So, what else? Anything else you can think of in terms of burnout? It seems like you have a really great approach in vulnerability, establishing that
Mhm.
culture that you can come in and talk to me about your burnout, and even you individually. You've got that. I love the term "sharpen the saw" because I think it's so important to make
Right.
sure that you do self-care and do all those things that keep you grounded and focused. And I actually just the other day was talking to a client of mine who's kind of dealing with some similar issues. I think
Mhm.
what we got from him is a bit of, how do I put it, kind of like spinning his wheels. He's doing a lot of things without a lot of vision for why he's doing them. And I
Mm.
think that if you look at it from a holistic perspective and like, what is your 30,000 foot vision of why you're doing these things? And if I can connect the why to the
Yep.
plates that you're spinning, the plates don't seem as daunting because I know what my
Right.
why is. I know what my vision is. So the plates aren't that big of a deal anymore because I get it behind this. So I think sometimes that happens with people as well, is they lose the vision and they get stuck in all the stuff and they're just so busy catching all the plates that they
Yeah.
forget there's a reason those plates are spinning to begin with and they lose that.
Yep. 100%. I think one of so there's so much there to unpack. We just did a training in our organization on basically leadership 101, and that's being a selfless leader, right? It's taking care of those around you, making sure the organization is taken care of before you worry about your own career. But step two of that is understanding the vision. What is our why? Why are we here? What is our primary objective? Where are we all going together, right? The book Good to Great talks about, hey, we don't know where we're going per se, but I know we're surrounded with good people. And so wherever we go, it's going to be good. But then finding that why and then going towards it. The other part of that with being a selfless leader and building that trust in the organization requires the leader to show that vulnerability really first, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your people aren't going to come to you vulnerable if they don't see you as vulnerable first.
Yeah.
You know, they're possibly going to look at you like you're the person who's got it all together. Um, we put our pants on the same way, right? So
Right.
the trick there is to every now and then show that vulnerability. Hey, I need a mental day, right? I'm just going to go to a park, sit there, read a book, and just decompress, breathe, practice some mindfulness exercises. Being upfront with your people to where they understand that they have the same latitude to do that, as long as the organizational priorities are taken care of, is really, I think, I want to say it's easy. Um, it really just comes down to that repetition, right?
Right.
And helping your people understand we all have our organizational missions and visions, but it's that repetition that really helps people understand this is what my boss cares about. It's okay to make mistakes as long as these things are taken care of. Um, and then building that culture of trust, that culture of vulnerability, you know, with the common cause, and conveying that vision around each other. So maybe you know what plates can be dropped, um, you know, every now and then.
I think between vulnerability, trust, and just kind of exactly how you said it, knowing which plates are okay to drop and realizing that
Mhm.
it's a mistake and we're going to recover from it is just I don't know how we add more than that. I think
Yeah,
that's really great.
sure.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you for this time, and I absolutely hope we get a chance to do it again. Because again, like I said at the very beginning, you're somebody that I've known for a while. I trust you implicitly, and I think that you've got an incredible leadership talent. And I hope that we get some more coaching insight from you moving forward.
Happy to. Thanks so much. Excited to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Catch you later.
All right. Thanks again.